Before we get started and get into the content, I just want to acknowledge that Chair Ayla is here. And so if he has anything that he wanted to talk before we get into the discussion, go ahead.
Thank you, Mehua, and thank you, everyone in Keaukaha for attending. I want to this COVID situation. I know that last time I was in Hilo, I made a commitment to come back to address concerns about the ASDA and the noise attenuation area. Since then, we've been able to clear the backlog on the ERR with regards to the safety zones from the patrolling stations there, as well as some other distance issues from some other potential harmful situations. So we have done that. And in doing so, we became aware of other issues such as a recently declared flood zone that was placed on the Mackay side in some areas by the flood insurance, the United States Flood Insurance Program. In addition, we were informed by the county that anyone applying for building permits would have to comply with the new EPA state of Hawaii requirement to switch over either to sewer or a individual wastewater system. Then we looked at the map, and I do want to point out that Cynthia Resentes, later on in the presentation, has done an amazing job at laying out all of these zones so that we can get a better idea of what kind of hurdles that we are going to come up against with regards to the sewer issues, the flood zone issues, the noise attenuation issues, and a few other issues. So that'll come up in the presentation. What we have, the conclusion that we've come to is, based upon this new map, there are some home repair jobs and some vacant lots that are not hampered by or minimally hampered by these additional elements. So our goal tonight is to inform you that we will be moving on sort of these what we call low-hanging fruit that's not as complicated as others. And then I will finish by saying we had a conversation today with U.S. Congressman Kahele, who has not been sworn in yet, but in January will be sworn in, and we've made it known to him that we need his assistance with regards to the FAA not being so cooperative on providing help with, providing monies and help with the homes that are in need of home repair that are impacted by the sound impact area. So currently there's no money budgeted for the homes that are impacted by the airport sounds. He has committed to us today to work with the new Secretary of Transportation to free up money for those homes. So that's where we are. Sorry we can't meet in person, and you can see the sincerity in my eyes and hear the sincerity in my voice. But these are very challenging times, and we're going to do the best we can now that we have a game plan to move forward and help as many families in Keaukaha that we can. So with that, I will allow for the team to progress with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And so, you know, a lot of what Chair just summarized, we will touch on, but hopefully, again, I know we're in a virtual environment. We're trying to make this information as accessible to you as possible, either on our website or at the district office in East Hawaii, just to make sure that you folks are well aware. This PowerPoint will additionally go up on our website. The map that we're going to reference is up on our website. And again, the East Hawaii district office does have the map in their office. And so for purposes of tonight's discussion, you know, we wanted to talk about, again, why are we here? Why are we meeting? What's the purpose? How we can move forward with NAHASDA and Keaukaha. I want to touch on, and again, tonight, don't get concerned. I'm going to talk about the NAHASDA program requirements just to try and have people understand what these requirements are. And then we'll try to field as many questions. If you are online and you want to try and put some questions or comments in the chat, Cynthia Resentes is monitoring that and will do her best to respond on the chat. And then we can always follow up with you folks as well. And then, of course, at the end, you know, we'll appreciate you folks participating. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is, again, to identify.
I'm watching a webinar right now.
To identify
projects that is coming up. I got
Aloha, Lehua.
Yeah,
Can you
aloha.
take pole position in
PowerPoint up, please?
It
doing
is.
what I
You
do
guys cannot see the PowerPoint.
No, I cannot.
Yeah, I'm home.
What can you see?
You, Kaliko, and Chair.
Now with the big item.
I will try again.
Where you stay, baby?
Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Right on.
Thank you.
Okay. So basically the purpose for the meeting tonight is to identify areas in Keaukaha where assistance for rehabilitation and new construction is available, subject to program requirements, to encourage existing lessees to build where the lot has sat vacant, and to rehabilitate older existing homes that do not meet HUD's requirement for housing that is safe and in good repair. Again, you know, there's vacant lots that existing lessees have. Some of you have older homes. And so what are some of these requirements that you will need in order to access this type of assistance? And again, we want to talk about what areas specifically that we are looking at. So I'm going to do the best I can with this map. I'm sorry it's small on this screen, but again, it is up on our website. If you go onto our website, you can actually zoom in and look closer at your specific lot. But what this map is trying to indicate is what Chair spoke about earlier. When you have the areas near Kalaniana Ole Avenue and Nahalea, the Makai side has flood issues. It's a special management area. And then on the side by the airport, anything at the DNL line 65. So if you can see, that covers like Lyman Avenue, all the streets closer to the airport are impacted by that noise line or that noise attenuation. And so there's special requirements there. So in designing the path forward to Keaukaha, what we try to do is focus on the areas that we can start assisting now. And so when we look a little bit closer after the map, again, is we want to look at homes that are on roads that have installed sewer lines connections, and again, would not be in the special management area that's up in the front by the shoreline, or not in the noise attenuation area that's closer to the airport. So we want to look at specific streets just so that we're all clear, because these streets have sewer lines, and that's the reason why we're focusing on these areas. So Nahalea Avenue, there's that Nahalea Avenue, that's the Mauka side, yeah, not the Makai side, because the Makai side is in that special management area, flooding area. We're looking at Pakele Lane, Lawa'iyung Avenue, Pua Ave from Nahalea to Lawa'iyung, Andrews Ave from Nahalea to Lawa'iyung, and then there's a portion of Baker from Lawa'iyung to Todd. So anyone that's in these areas is who we want to look at first. Again, the major issue is that there's sewer connection, that's why, and we're not subject to these other special issues with regards to flooding or the airport. So that's kind of the overview about where we're looking at in Keaukaha. As Chair has said, while we want to address as many as we can in Keaukaha, there is issues with regard to cesspools, as he was touching on, that would need to result in either a closure of the cesspool or individual wastewater septic. And what we would prefer to do is to see if we can work with the County of Hawaii and what are the county's plans in terms of sewer connections, because we wouldn't want to impose those kind of high requirements on lessees if the county is going to look at sewer in the relatively near future as the state takes on this conversion from cesspool with a deadline right now of 2050. So again, our focus is those streets and those areas that have sewer, that aren't in the flooding areas and that aren't in the airport areas. Again, we're not saying we won't get to those other areas. We definitely plan to, but we want to start with where we can for now as we address the other issues. So that's kind of just the basic thing of Keaukaha. The next phase of it I was going to go into is to talk about what NAHASDA's program requirements. And I'm not expecting you folks all to, again, just because we say it this one time, you're going to understand what it all is, but I just wanted to put it on your radar so you're aware that there are requirements with this NAHASDA funding. So in terms of NAHASDA program requirements, the first one piece most people know of is the income requirement. That for NAHASDA, it's for families whose total household income is at or below 80% of the area median income. So again, it's the entire household. So if you're living with adult children that may have jobs, all of those factor into the household size and then the income that's generated as a household. I wanted to show Hawaii County's household income just to give you folks an idea. So you can think about your household size, and this would be the income amounts. And again, all of this information is available and accessible, but I wouldn't, just because you're seeing it, if you're not certain, definitely come to NAHASDA and we can work through that process with whatever documentation in order to make this determination. With our assistance, we're here. But I just wanted you folks to be aware that there is an income limit when you're looking at accessing NAHASDA funds. The other requirement besides the income limits is also, once we determine you are NAHASDA eligible, that you can access these funds, then it becomes what type of work. If you want to construct, say, if your lot is vacant and you want to construct a new home, or if you want to do home repair, then we have to start to look at financing and how much you could qualify for. And so we'd have to look at verification of income. A loan packet gets sent out to you. Your credit report is pulled, and there is a small fee for the credit report that pays for the cost of pulling that credit report. And then our loans staff goes through and reviews. So I just want you to be aware that there's that additional requirement. Once we walk through the financing requirement, again, another important part when you're talking about NAHASDA funds is that you need to use prevailing wage rates under the Davis-Bacon Act. Sometimes this can drive up the cost of the construction, while you may have family who is in a certain trade, maybe carpenter, electrician, or plumber. Again, under the NAHASDA requirements, you need to pay prevailing wage rates unless they are volunteer labor. So again, these factors do increase the cost for any construction in the area. The other requirement, just to be aware of, is there are abatement requirements. So what I mean by that, and some of the homes in Keaukaha are old, understandably, it's the second homestead. So been around for many years, but all housing units built before 1978 has to be evaluated upfront and identified if there's lead-based paint hazards, if there's asbestos, if there's any kind of abatement that needs to be done. We need to ensure that those issues are addressed upfront. And so again, that too, you may need specialized resources in order to do this abatement work. So that's a critical issue to factor in as well in terms of your cost of overall repair. This would be more for if you're repairing a home. And it's not just the cost of what you think it'll cost to repair or what a contractor quotes you, but then you have to factor in these other costs as well. And then I also wanted to point out, because what some people aren't aware is that when you're using NAHASDA funds, it does restrict the housing. There's affordability restrictions that are placed on the house. So what that means is there's a period of time that the house has to be available for low-income families. And that affordability period is enforced with a lease addendum. So what that basically means is, depending on the amount of assistance you receive, you don't have to show annually that you still meet, your income could increase. But if you ever transfer this lease or you try to do a refinance where you're trying to cash out, there might be the possibility of recapturing those funds. So that's why it's important to at least be aware that these requirements are there on any NAHASDA unit or any house that's assisted with NAHASDA funds. Insurance requirements. Adequate insurance coverage is required, not only when you first, whether it's a repair or a new home construction, not only when you first do the construction or during the construction, but during the time that that house is in that affordability period, there is a requirement for insurance coverage and for NAHASDA to be notified, or DHHL to be notified, because sometimes people just change their insurance. They change companies and they don't notify the department. And so it's critical during this time period that insurance coverage continues on the house and that DHHL is also notified of any changes. And then again, any contractors or subcontractors, they have to provide insurance covering their activities in the construction or rehab of the property or the house. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on in terms of program requirements is housing counseling. Housing counseling is required for families receiving NAHASDA assistance. What I want to encourage is that for those of you, when you come in and you submit, if you are interested and you submit a NAHASDA application to see if you're income eligible, we will almost immediately refer you to housing counseling as you're working through the loan packet to determine what you can qualify for financially. And what this process does is we're really just wanting to ensure your success and ensure that you're set up to succeed. And so this is an important requirement that I want to encourage, that if you're not in the areas where we're talking about as the map identified on the sewer lines, but it is something you want to look at down the road, you may want to put a NAHASDA application in. We can determine your income eligibility, and then you can work through housing counseling. Because while we're trying to deal with the county and the sewer lines or the FAA and the noise attenuation, you know, if you can prepare yourself for when that opportunity comes, whether it's for NAHASDA or maybe along the road, you may find out, you know what, I can qualify with Home Street Bank or some other lender, and that maybe you wouldn't have all of these similar requirements. It wouldn't hurt. So I just want to really encourage, obviously the focus will be those families that are in those areas that we can assist right away. But if you're not, and you want to determine if you are income eligible and if you can access this housing counseling, again, just to prepare you, so whether you receive NAHASDA assistance or not, that it can be, that you can see what opportunities are out there or what type of funding is out there to maybe assist you. So potentially you may not have to wait for these issues to be resolved. And so I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. I think the next thing on here is more questions. And so we'll do our best to field questions. I just wanted you folks to be aware that on our website, we have the postcard that went out. We have the map that I showed earlier that I can put up on the screen again. This PowerPoint will go up, assuming that if this does record properly, this presentation, we'd like to post that up too. And we want to try and have it as accessible to you as possible. I'm going to encourage you folks. We work closely with our East Hawaii District Office, but in order to help alleviate, because East Hawaii District Office has so much responsibility and so little staff, I really want to encourage you folks. I have her number on here. Nadine Pomeroy is our staff here at NAHASDA. She's very familiar with many of you in Keaukaha from working on Hawaii Island. It probably would be best that you just direct one point person. So this is Nadine's contact information, so please take it down. Whatever questions you have, we can do our best to fill the questions, because maybe your questions is specific to your situation, not something you want to state in a public meeting. By all means, we encourage you folks to reach out, and we'll do our best to respond to any questions that you may have. And I think our last slide is a mahalo. But I just, again, wanted to thank all of you folks for coming, tuning in this evening, and I'll do my best to open it up now and field any questions, and the chair is here as well. Again, if you're putting anything in the chat, maybe I'll stop sharing screen and we can try to field things in the chat box. But really, this is your time if you have any questions.
Excuse me. Okay, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Go ahead, Uncle Pat.
I was just going to invite, as you just mentioned, invite the people. I just want to basically reiterate what you said, Lehua, is that at this particular point in time, because I know there are many that are, when initially NAHASDA came on back in maybe 2014, the people that had the most questions about what was happening, how they could get along, was those that were in the noise abatement area, because that what triggered us from not being able to get loans. But I appreciate what you're doing now in trying to take care of those that, as the chair mentioned, though, that low-hanging fruit where the sewer lines are there based on what the EPA said we got to do by 2050 in closing our cesspools. So I would invite anybody right now who's within the that Nahalea, Pakele, Lawai, part of Baker. I would think that you would also have Lehua part of this poor, maybe that you or Cynthia may not have looked at, because the Pakele Lane is tied into the sewer that was placed at from the school when the school needed to close their large capacity cesspool. The sewer lines were then included.
Mm.
And it's the same for Lawai'iyum. Lawai'iyum was based on the sewers or the closure of the large capacity cesspool at the Kawananakwa Center. When the county and DHHL built that, they had to close it and then put the sewer lines, and therefore created Lawai'iyum. So I just need that everybody understand that, and why there is a push to go after that so-called low-hanging fruit, where there is less restriction from from the county of Hawaii in building, because there will be harder requirements to seek under the FAA.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Pat.
I would turn it over.
Right. So to your point, exactly, those are probably the issues why the sewers were installed in those areas. And so starting there is key. And then we'll have to look at what the county is going to do for those other areas that are not do not have sewer lines and so are still with cesspools. Yeah. Any other questions?
So, Lehua, let me go ahead. And one of the questions that came up was whether it was really a grant or a loan. And I responded to the individual that asked the question is, depending upon what we're doing, if it's a brand new home, it's probably going to be a loan. But if it's rehab, it could be a grant.
Could be a different dollar amount, but again, as I said earlier in the presentation, if there's abatement issues or that prevailing wage, the cost can go up pretty substantially, pretty quickly, depending on the age of your home. So yeah, it will definitely depend on each situation for the home repair. And again, if you're unsure, I just encourage, I had just put in the chat for someone who asked how they can start the process. I would just encourage you to start by calling Nadine, because sometimes it's going to depend on each specific situation. Depending on if you are one of these areas where that is connected to the sewer line or if you're not, and then we can sort of go from there. Any additional questions? I'm trying to respond to the ones in the chat in the meantime.
Mr. or Bobby Akoy had talked about who can we contact regarding the abatement. Again, contact Nadine, and based on what your situation is, when we start the process, we can also take what you're looking at and from that information start determining what we would have to do to be able to assist, or what that assistance might be, if it includes all of these abatement issues. Because what that means is somebody coming out, doing actual inspection on the house, things of that nature.
I see Michelle responding about or chatting about when this funding came out way back, there was a deferral program for kupuna as part of it. Is this still an option? I'm thinking, I'm not absolutely certain, but what we do have, again, we do have like Cynthia is saying, this is the same program that was there from before. We still have the home repair program. So I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. And if not, we can take a look at it by all means. If there's a specific program, I would guess, oh, Michelle is saying, yes, it is a home repair program. So how it was done in the past was that agreement was done with the County of Hawaii to do the home repair program. And it had a set dollar amount limit. I want to say it was up to $50,000. And that's why when someone else is asking about if they've already received NAHASDA assistance, we'll have to look at how much assistance you received. And then we'd have to look at what additional work you're looking at. So all of those things are going to factor in. So again, I encourage you to just contact Nadine and we'll work through the process. Unfortunately, not all of the files came over when the program came back to the department, but we'll do the best we can with the information that we have accessible and work with you folks. So, you know, again, I encourage you to reach out and see how we can work with each of you individually. So I don't believe applications are available at the Hilo office. However, good question. I will follow up with the East Hawaii District Office Manager, and I believe we should be able to shoot that over electronically to her and make it easier for you folks to get that information. So that shouldn't be a problem for us to send it over, and then they can print it out for you folks there in East Hawaii, or we can also send it directly to you folks. So there's a question about renovations for homes on Lyman. If I'm not mistaken, Lyman is close to yep, it's very close. It's if you look at the map on our website, let me see if I can possibly get that up. So I'm gonna try and pull up the map from our website, because when you pull up the map from our website, you can actually zoom into it, not like how it was in the presentation. And so what you guys already know, I don't have to show you on the map. Lyman is really close to the airport. And so as Chair already stated, there are noise attenuation issues with that. And so until we get some of those issues resolved with FAA, which is why he had the conversation with Congressman Kahele today, those issues would still remain. So I'm gonna share my screen now so you folks can see the map. That I'm kind of zoomed in on. Hopefully it'll come up. Sorry, I think you're actually seeing my team screen instead of, let me drop this there. I think you guys should be able to see the map. And you see where Lyman is? And you see this line that comes across Lyman way up here over here, that's the DNL 65. So pretty much all of these homes in Lyman is affected by the noise attenuation issues. And so until we get those issues resolved, it'll take a while. However, what I will say for these, my humble opinion, please reach out to us. Please consider putting in a NAHASDA application. If you are income eligible, I would highly encourage you to still go through the housing counseling, because if for whatever reason NAHASDA takes too long and there's an opportunity for you to secure other types of financing where you wouldn't be subject to these same issues, I just want to throw that out as an option while we work things out to the extent that we can with the FAA on this issue. So again, I just want to throw that out as an option in the meantime. I think there was another question. So someone asked if the meeting is recorded and will be available. Yes, it will. The meeting is being recorded and it will be available, and that will be up on our website. And then the other question is, does the qualification for NAHASDA funding depend on your income? So if I want to change my windows or update to sewer, Hale built 1977, so would be subject to the lead-based paint requirements, how would I qualify? Okay, awesome question. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. And on the PowerPoint, I had a screen, but again, I still can encourage you folks, contact Nadine, submit the application. We can do the analysis too. But basically, it depends on your household size, and then it depends on, so here's the information. So depending on your household size, that's the income limits for Hawaii County. And again, that's everyone in your household, yeah? So if you're unsure, please just submit the application and we can work with you to determine your income eligibility. You know, again, the abatement issues, because your house was built before 1978, would still come into play. But the first step again would be to just submit the application and we can review and go from there. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, and I'm not hearing anyone. So again, all the PowerPoint, this recording, everything will be up on our website. The next thing for Kavena, I would say, is if you're interested, if you're one of these families on one of these areas, I would highly encourage you to contact Nadine Pomeroy, and then we can get an application out to you. Yeah, someone just asked in that, yeah, unfortunately, only the Malka side Nahalea lots qualify. The reason for that is because the Makai Nahalea lots are in a special management area. So there's other flooding and other issues that come into play that affected this area. And that's why it's the lots that are Malka of Nahalea. So someone is already in the SMA. So yeah, there's special issues when you start dealing with flooding. Cynthia, did you want to touch anything on the SMA issues?
Yeah, I can. Part of the problem with the SMA area is it's difficult to see on the map, but if you go into it, into the East Hawaii office, in that area between Nahalea and Kalanianaole to the ocean, there is a requirement for what's called a BFE, which is base flood elevation. So part of the problem with that area, and one of the reasons why we couldn't put it into the document that we put together, was those have to be treated on an individual basis. A lot of them will need to be, if you want a house built or you're going to renovate a house, the house has to be elevated to somewhere between 13 and 16 feet above ground level. And that's to compensate for any new building in the SMA area to keep the house out of water at some point in time. So that's one of the bigger problems there. In addition, there are specific lots in that area that not only are in the SMA, but in addition to that, they're also identified in flood maps, which make it much more difficult. And the reason that becomes difficult is your insurance for those homes start to skyrocket. Those people that are there right now are pretty much grandfathered in. But if we start touching those homes or building homes in that area, all of these new requirements come into play, and it makes it very difficult to configure homes for people. Let's say if we have a kupuna and they're not going to be able to walk up 16 stairs or 20 stairs. What do you do then? Do you put an elevator in their house, or do you put a lift in their house? Because that would be the only other alternative, which all of a sudden takes the price of the house either sky high, or even to rehab the house. We've just now priced you out of the grant portion of assistance to fix your house, when all you want is your house fixed and not raised 16 feet. And we force you to have to do that because of the requirements. We've just complicated your life. So that's part of the problem. The SMA area, as I said, we did not include in our environmental assessment for most of the lots in the area. That doesn't mean, and again, this would depend on the individual, we could talk about the details. I'm just thinking that from what we've seen, it would make it extremely difficult for the beneficiaries, for anybody, to build in that type of an area. But
So-
again, you know, if somebody's bound and determined and can qualify for a loan, I think we can talk about it, but we just felt that this was going to be an extreme stretch.
So I had a question also, what about King? So I just wanted to show the map again. Here's King Avenue. So it's gonna depend where you are along this the noise attenuation 65 line. So it looks like a good portion of any of the homes on King Avenue on the Malka side is probably in the noise attenuation zone. If you're on the Mackay side, it depends if you're closer towards Naniloa side, like Baker Avenue, anywhere towards the Naniloa side, I guess if you call, would probably still be in the noise attenuation. But if you're Baker Ave going away from Naniloa, basically maybe if you're on the Mackay side. But King Ave, very similar to Lyman Avenue, you're dealing with some of the noise attenuation issues, yeah. So just wanted to respond to that inquiry. I know there was someone had commented that they're ready to get started, but they may be in the SMA. I think Cynthia just sort of touched on that, but as Cynthia put in the chat again, so, contact Nadine. For repairs only, do we have to be in that area? I'm not sure if you're talking about Keaukaha, if you're talking because you're not a Keaukaha lessee. Tonight we were focused on Keaukaha. If you're outside of Keaukaha, we can take a look at it, but there is a whole nother process on the environmental review, which Keaukaha can speak to. It takes a long time. So just wanted you to be aware if you're someone who's not a lessee in Keaukaha. Someone had asked about Deshe. So for Deshe, that whole road is not on a sewer line. So that's one of the streets. Again, it's between Nahalea and of course Pakele Lane and Lawa'iyung that we want to have the conversation with the county of Hawaii and see what their intentions to put in sewer connection. Because that would make the most sense in terms of being able to help more families. Someone asked about Todd. Again, Todd, I think it depends on where on Todd that you live, because there was a certain section of Todd that was covered, but it's a small section. So let me get back to that information. So if you're basically there's a portion of Baker Ave from Lawa'iyung Avenue to Todd Avenue. So I'm not sure if you're close to that or if you're further along. And then again, Todd Avenue, you don't have to worry so much about the noise attenuation unless you live on, again, closer to the Naniloa side. But, the issue with Todd is gonna be like other areas where you don't have sewer connection.
Excuse me, Lehua.
Go ahead.
If and I'm only going based on what the question that was asked about the shale Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those 1 acre lots about on the shale abuts Nahalea, and then on the also on the shale it abuts Hawaii.
Right.
Those 1 acre lots.
Right.
Okay. So what is a process that someone who has an acre lot that is going to build on that lot, but closer to Lawa'iyung and or Dishe on Nahalea, would they fall into the category of this vacant lot, or or do they? Is that they gotta subdivide before they do that, or whether or not build in the back lot? I want to be able for our people to maximize the use of the property, and if it's closer to the sewer line, that they should be able to, and I only use the term they should be able to, because I want to remind the department that the County of Hawaii assessed those lots, even those on Deshay and or Todd, they were assessed a sewer assessment fee because their lots were in close proximity to the sewer lines on Lawa'iyung and Nahalea. So, I would want some consideration for those lessees who got 1 acre lots, and back since 1990, we're told you were going to be assessed because of the ordinance that says you were in close proximity, even though their houses were on, physically the address was on Deshay, but their lots extended all the way to Nahalea.
Uncle Pat, this is Cynthia. I would think
hi, Cynthia.
Hi. I think some of that, you're exactly right. Depending upon where somebody places their house on those long lots that go between Nahalea and Deshay, there could be the opportunity that we could help them if they're going to hook up to the sewer line on Nahalea. Some of the problems we have right now is when you look at the address for that lot, even though it could be close to the Nahalea side for sewer, it has a Deshay address.
Yes.
So that's what makes it a little bit.
Homes.
Yeah,
yes,
that's what makes it a little bit more confusing. But I would think that if the house was going to be built closer to Nahalea, we could take a look at it. What we don't want to do is we don't want them to put the house on the Deshay side and us try to get gravity feed all the way to Nahalea and put a long line through 1 acre of property, because that's going to cost a significant amount of money and either increase their mortgage significantly, or it's going to take away from a home rehab. That's why those, I think, if people are very interested, again, get with Nadine, get the information, and then either myself or.
I know there was a comment about, again, between the noise abatement and no sewer connection, most of Keaukaha has to wait for getting help. I can totally appreciate that, and I'm not even gonna begin to. Uncle Pat was even saying, should we only reach out to the families who can get the assistance? And I know he was concerned about this, and the feeling was we just wanted you folks to be aware of what we were trying to do. We're going to try to start with the ones that we can, as Uncle Pat has said, the low-hanging fruit, the ones that are near sewer lines. We're going to do our best to work with the county, with a new administration, to see what we can do for the areas that are not near sewer lines. Are there options? Are they going to consider letting us do the improvements without upgrading the cesspool right now until they figure out? Those are all the kind of conversations with a new administration we want to have. And then thanks to Chair Ayla today, talking with Congressman Kahele, trying to raise the FAA issues. So we want to get to those issues, but in the meantime, we felt like we could at least start with, as Uncle Pat has referenced, low-hanging fruit, or those that at least don't have those similar issues that other areas have. So I was in the process of putting it in the chat, but there is not a link for the NAHASDA application on the website. However, please, I did send Nadine's email. I put it up in the chat. Send her an email. We can send it to you. I'm just reluctant to put the application on the website because I don't want to create a flood. This is here for you folks for Keaukaha. I want to work directly with you folks and the families that are affected instead of having applications come from who knows where. So that's why we do not have it on the website, but we'll be more than happy to send it to you. So you have Nadine's email as well as her phone, and we can follow up and get you that information. And I will follow up with East Hawaii District Office and see if we can also send, make sure they have a version as well so they can help us in case any of you want access to that. So not a problem with getting that application. If your family member is interested in a vacant lot, most of these vacant lots, as I understand it, are already awarded. There's a lessee that has this lot, but for whatever reason, either because financially or I don't know their circumstances, they have not built. The whole intention with this is to get as many of those vacant lots built with a home on those lots. So to my knowledge, I do believe DHHL has a small number of lots. Most of those are geared up for the Hawaii Community College program, but those go by date of application on the wait list. So that's how that would be available. Specifically for just clearing a lot, so NAHASDA funds is really about financing a home. I get your point about you're planning to build a home on the lot. That kind of conversation, I would encourage you to contact Nadine and restart the conversation to see what options are available. Because if you're ultimately wanting to build a home, but it's just prepping the lot, let's see how we can have that conversation if you are in one of these areas that that have access to sewer connection. Yeah, I'll put Nadine's information up again. I'll put her phone number as well as her email. But I'll put the PowerPoint up, which has her phone number. And then I do have her email in the chat, so you folks can email her, because I know one person had asked for the email. So again, that's Nadine's phone number. And I put that website information because all of this information, this recording, the PowerPoint will all be up on the website. So that information will be available. And then I will also put in the chat again, because Nadine's email address, so that in case email is better for you rather than phone, you will have that information available as well. Oh, Cynthia did so on it. She put the email address and the phone number. So someone is posting that their mom had been, probably when you're saying approved, was probably determined to be income eligible. I'm guessing that the issues there, if you're on Kalani Ole, has to do with the special, the SMA, and that whole discussion we had earlier. So as Chair said, we'll follow up on whatever specifics we can with regard to the SMA issues. Is there a time period where those awarded a lot have to start construction? Not sure if this is the right time to ask, but there are so many vacant lots or lots that have unlivable houses on them for years, and many people waiting and ready for a lot. I know when NAHASDA and this program was first put out, one of the issues was to sort of give everyone, here's your last chance, here's your chance, and if you don't, you know, the department could take enforcement action and start canceling leases. But we want to make sure we give people every opportunity to construct the homestead first before we take that kind of action. And I know it would be difficult to take that kind of action, especially in this time frame with the pandemic. So I don't see that happening in the very near future. What I would rather encourage is that everyone do their best they can to, especially if they are in the sewer area next, you know, have access to sewer connection, that try to work with us and see if we can get a home on that lot would be the main priority. Cherry, you had anything else? I don't see too many questions coming in. So.
No, I just want to thank everybody in Keaukaha and Uncle Pat, especially for being patient as we go through this process. A lot of times, like the EPA and the closing of the sewers, that's done at a national level, and there is no local input into that. So there is no consultation. This is it. They passed a federal audit or a federal policy that says by this date you have to do this. Then it's up to the Department of Health and the county building departments to start the enforcement. So in many cases, they're just doing what they need to do. We can, in this case, we can kind of get in there and start working in the gray areas to see if we can get an extension or, talk to them about if a sewer line is going to go into an area in the next 5 or 6 years and repairs that need to be done on the house. Let us consider not forcing the homeowner to build a individual wastewater system when we know in 10 years or less the sewer is going to be there, because that's it's a $30,000 to $40,000 investment for an individual wastewater system. We know we'll get sewer in a couple of years. Why force one of our beneficiaries or lessees to do that? So we're in those talks right now, Uncle Pat, with the Department of Health to see if we can bring some logic to the implementation of this process. It'll be likely on a street-by-street basis if we're successful, and we'll keep you informed of the progress on that.
So I know there's a question about for repairs only, must we be the specified areas? For now, yes. However, as Chair already just said, as we start to have those conversations with the county, and if the county does allow us to address the repairs without dealing with the cesspool upgrade, we can definitely take a look at that and we will update you. But again, I would highly encourage you all. There is the counseling, and we've seen families be able to financially prepare themselves, where again, if you get tired of waiting for NAHASDA, are there options that you have with outside financing? So I just want to put that out there, and we have that service available. So if you're in those outlying areas, consider that, and then we may get to you and you're that much further along as well. So I encourage that as an option. So again, we thank you guys all for your time. It's been a little over an hour, and so we appreciate that you folks took the time on your busy evenings to come and find out about this and explore more. We encourage you folks to reach out to us when we start getting into your specific issues that you may have, that your specific situation. So we encourage any contact in any way that we can communicate with you folks. And again, I'm encouraging anyone to reach out to Nadine. But with that, I think we're good for this evening. So
let me just add one thing, and that is, as soon as the vaccinations in your area become available, please get vaccinated. In the meantime, resist the urge to gather socially in numbers that are greater than what's recommended. Wear your mask, continue the social distancing, and continue with the sanitization. Yeah, we want you all around here next year. Mahalo.
Mahalo,
It's only 2 weeks away.
Uncle Pat, you had any closing things you wanted to say? We just thank you again.
Yes, I do. I want to thank those that took the opportunity to participate. I know because I'm looking at a lot of the names that are here, and I know it's disappointing because many of you don't live on Lawai, Nahale'a, and in those areas where the low-hanging fruits are. So I would just want to make sure that the department understands that if that is the case, if we're going to have the low-hanging fruits, those vacant lots, those that I would truly want that we, I'm going to be prepared to monitor anything and every opportunity that those people in the low-hanging fruit area that there should not be any hindrance for them to get, either get their lot prepared, get help to get a loan, assisted with getting a loan, whether it's NAHASDA or through some other commercial entity. But we do need to be aware, and especially to those because I am not prepared to go and say, well, if nobody else in Keaukaha like, or none of us going to do that, go give the money to someplace else. Right now, I want to make sure everything that can come to Keaukaha, can be built in Keaukaha, should be built and should be expanded. So that's where I am at. And I'll pledge to you, Lihua, that I'll do my best, but and look at those identified as I keep looking at this map between those areas of the low-hanging fruit, and making sure that we can at least show that we're prepared, or you were prepared to help those that needed help in that specific area. Please don't forget about us in that's outside, in the Lyman, the King, the Kraus, those that have suffered longer than most of the people on the sewers. Just, well, we all suffered in the community, but the noise abatement. I would like to leave just a question with you, Chair, and maybe you can find this out. If we have 30 years to comply to the cesspool being closed, and if I got a note in 2020 2021, my mortgage would be over when I would need to change my cesspool. So by then we probably could, I want that kind of consideration to be taught, that I see where the county has, even though the federal government said we had till 2050 to close our cesspool, we are being told now, because the county, and that's the discussion I want you to have with the new mayor, that even though we got till 2050, or everybody has under the EPA till 2050, we are being told now, if I apply for a building permit and I live off those lines, off the sewer lines, I have to put in an individual wastewater treatment. So I would, make that argument. I don't like build a new cesspool, but if I gotta build a new home and get a loan, I like use the cesspool I have until 2050.
Okay.
That's the conversation that I would want to do, especially if I'm gonna get a 30-year mortgage.
Okay, I hear you, and we will have those conversations. Okay.
And you don't need answer. You don't need answer right now, Tia.
Okay. We'll have the conversations, and you'll be invited to join in.
Absolutely.
Okay? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, just want to say mahalo everyone, and Merry Christmas to all of you. And hopefully you folks will be able to spend this time with your families and just be safe, as Chair has said. And so we look forward to continuing to work with all of you. And so again, thank you all for tuning in, and you folks all take care. Okay, aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Aloha, Merry Christmas to all of you too, and take care to the Keaukaha community. Thank you for participating. You made my night. Thank you. Aloha, we hope.